3 of 8 Doom. Our encounter card, since we are at a non-spectral location still, is going to be Bedeviled. Oh, nah. Man, that's awful. Hello, Arkham Horror fans. This is your Game of the Day. Remember that you can get in on the fun by heading over to surveymonkey.com, filling out the 3 quick questions, and letting me know which investigators and scenarios you would like to see me play here on the channel, and I will do my very best to bring you those games. If you like this sort of content, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps out the channel a great deal. Before we get started, I'd like to thank the patrons of this channel for their tremendous support. The Arkham Horror LCG community is amazing, and these people have gone above and beyond to bring you content like these playthroughs. If you'd like to support the channel's goals and see your name on this list, head over to patreon.com, sign up for a tier of your choice, and claim your rewards. That would be awesome. Without further ado, let's play our Game of the Day. Hello, Arkham Horror fans. On today's Game of the Day, we are continuing with our campaign through the Circle Undone with Tommy Muldoon. This is the red-gloved Muldoon deck that we have been playing, and today we are tackling the Wages of Sin. Certainly not one of my favorite scenarios in the game. Very difficult scenario to do well in solo. So we are going to do our best. This could be a very quick game. I find that the Wages of Sin in solo tends to go very, very quickly. So we are going to do our best. See if we can't pick up one of the heretics as well as 1 XP, and so we can afford our second copy of the Red Gloved Man, which is our goal heading into Union and Disillusion later in this campaign. As you may remember, it's been a while since we played Red Gloved Muldoon, just getting back into playing Game of the Day here, so I thought I'd ease into it with a fairly straightforward playthrough. Red-gloved Muldoon, of course, we have the old keyring, cherished keepsake, bandolier, leathercoat, beat cop, Tetsuo Mori, and the red-gloved man as our assets. Got also a couple of enchanted blades and a copy of charisma. For events, we've got Look What I Found to help us discover clues, a chance encounter, so we can get the red-gloved man back several times per game, hopefully. Evidence to help us discover clues. Lucky, of course, a survivor staple. 1 copy prepared for the worst. Scene of the crime, which has been very good for me in this particular scenario, and scrounge for supplies, which we can use to get back a chance encounter or scene of the crime, depending on what we need. Only 4 skills, 2 copies of Steadfast, and 2 copies of Vicious Blow. Just a reminder, our basic weakness is chronophobia. So as I mentioned, this is a very difficult scenario to do well in solo. I'm not going to detail my issues with this scenario. I think I'm going to save that for a knowledge is power video about how to, I don't know if do well is the right word, but how to do better in this scenario in solo. And so needless to say, it is not one of my favorites because it is quite difficult. We are ready to go in Octagon. Let's just swap over here. We are set up. We chose the Heretics' Graves, the Gallows, the Chapel Attic, and the Chapel Crypt at random. We have the Heretics' Graves is the 7 Shroud location where we can add our willpower to our investigation. The Gallows is Shroud value X, where X is the number of Geist enemies in play. Of course, once the Heretics hit the table, that's going to be at least 4. The Chapel Addict, this is while we are investigating, we add the number of cards in our hand to our skill value for this investigation. That's actually the better version of the Attic. The other one, whenever you draw a card, it's placed under the Chapel Attic, which can be quite bad. 8 Shroud, though, that's no joke. And Chapel Crypt, while there are no ready enemies, at Chapel Crypt, it gets -3 Shroud again, 6 Shroud location. And that's going to be tough because there will be a heretic there. I mentioned this is a very difficult scenario to do in solo, So our goal basically is to get, we want to get these 2 victory points at Haunted Fields and the Abandoned Chapel, and we want to try to get 1 heretic if at all possible. The only real downside to not getting heretics is that, of course, you add Doom, 2 Union and Disillusion, 1 per heretic that escapes. So we're going to try our best to get 1. Generally, I did a few test games of this with a slightly different build of Tommy Muldoon, and I was able to get 1 pretty reliably. I came close to getting 2 once, but of course, I was the scenario transpired against me. The biggest issue, I think, is in solo at least, is you do have the what's his name? The Watcher comes out. The Spectral Watcher comes out in Agenda 2, and he's got 5 health, so he is difficult to kill, and you kill him once and he just comes back. So it can be very difficult to maneuver around him. While there are quite a few locations on the table, it is actually quite a small map. There is not a lot of place to hide on this map from him. And so once he hits the table, it can be very difficult to play around him and actually achieve all of the stuff that you need to do to win. So we have Agenda 1A on the table, the Hanged Man 12, Doom Threshold of 8. Our Act 1A is In Pursuit of the Dead. We need 3 clues to advance, and we can't flip locations over to their spectral side until that is done. And then, of course, the Wages of Sin, we are playing on standard difficulty. The skulls are -X, where X is 1 higher than the number of copies of unfinished business in the victory display. So basically that's going to be 1 for most of the game, -1. Cultist is -3 until the end of the round. Each heretic enemy in play gets +1 fight and +1 evade. The tablet is -3, and if you fail, trigger the forced ability on a copy of unfinished business in your threat area as if it was the end of the round, which basically flips the heretic back, I believe. And finally, the Elder thing is -2, and if you fail, and this is an attack or evasion attempt, resolve each haunted ability on your location. Actually, the haunted abilities in this one aren't that terrible compared to some of the scenarios in this campaign, but and sometimes it can actually help you if you can move the heretics toward you a little bit. But I think we're ready to draw our opening hand. We did take 1 mental trauma during the secret name, so that is we have that on Tommy. So let's shuffle up our deck and see how we do here for our opening hand. So we get Prepared for the Worst, an Enchanted Blade, a Liquid Eye Found, a Vicious Blow, and an Old Keyring. That is actually a pretty decent hand. We like the Old Keyring and the Liquid Eye Found and the Enchanted Blade. Probably don't need the Vicious Blow right away. And the Prepared for the Worst, I'm kind of on the fence about that one. It gets us a second weapon, though, potentially, which could come in very handy. What else do we have in our deck that we could use? Maybe an ally? I think I'm going to mulligan that. And we get a Scrounge for supplies and the Bandolier, which we have not seen yet in all the games we've played. We have not seen the Bandolier yet, so that will actually be quite nice. If we can get the Bandolier down, then we can get Becky down, and that will give us some firepower against the heretics. Ideally, we run into the heretic that we can parlay with. That one I find is the easiest one to deal with. Then after that is the heretic that you have to kill twice. You do have to get attacked by it at least twice, which is kind of annoying. But generally, I should be able to kill it twice. And then after that, of course, you've got the heretics that you have to not only defeat, but then you have to cart them around the table. take them to one of these, either the heretic's graves, the gallows, the chapel attic, or a chapel crypt, depending on the heretic. You have to clear all the clues off that location, and then you have to pass a fairly, well, a difficult skill test. It's an above average skill test. So we shall see how things go here. So we're ready to go. Let's get our three actions on Tommy. Let's go to the investigation phase, and let's kick things off here. So I think we want 4 shroud location. That is not ideal. We could play the old keyring and the enchanted blade and try to investigate. I think that might be our best bet here to kick things off. So we will use our first action to play the old keyring for 1 resource. We will use our second action to play the enchanted blade for 3 resources. So we have 1 resource remaining. And then I think we are going to investigate using the old keyring here at the Hangman's Brook. So it will be we will get -2 shroud, and if we are successful, we will lose a key. So we are going, Tommy's a 3 versus a 2. So not great odds, but let's see how we do. First draw from the Chaos Bag is a 0. So we do succeed. And we grab that clue. That is nice. That is the highest shroud location that we have to deal with immediately. Anyway, the shroud at the Heretic's Graves, Gallows, Chapel Attic, and Chapel Crypt are much, much worse later in the game. But that's the toughest one we have to deal with at the beginning. So now we can head over to Haunted Fields and Abandoned Chapel and try to get those clues as well. That's going to do it for our first turn. Nothing in the enemy phase, and we draw our weakness, Rookie Mistake, during the upkeep. Of course, we do not have any assets that have horror on them, so that will simply be reshuffled into our deck. We go to the first Mythos phase of the game, 1 Doom of 8. Of course, this scenario is one of the gimmicks in this is that there are 2 encounter decks. There is a regular encounter deck and a spectral encounter deck. We draw from the regular encounter deck while we are at non-spectral locations, and then once all the locations flip to their spectral sides, then we start drawing from the spectral encounter deck. So we're just drawing a regular card, and our encounter card is Racked. So we are going to be -1 at locations. Or our first skill test during each round is going to be at -1. So we will either want to get rid of that at some point, or we're going to have to play around it for a little bit. We can get rid of it if we test 3 willpower. Our willpower is 3, so that is a tough test for us right now. Let's gain our 3 actions back. As our first action, we are going to move up here to the Haunted Fields. 3 shroud location with 2 clues. Each spectral enemy at Haunted Fields gets +1 horror value. Not too bad at the moment because there are no spectral enemies. Our first skill test will be at -1, so we are going 2v3. I'm not too worried about that, actually. We do have the Look What I Found that we can burn here to gain these 2 clues. So let's give it a shot. We're going to go 2v3. Chaos Bag gives us a skull. That is a -1, so we are going 1v3. That gives us a chance to play the Look What I Found for 2 resources, and we are able to grab those 2 clues. Very nice indeed. Very good start so far. We have 3 clues. Now we can advance. We do need 3 clues to advance, but I find it's actually easier, at least in solo, to go grab these clues over here at the chapel attic, or at the abandoned chapel first, because when you flip, you need to add clues to each of these locations. You add 2 clues to each of the Heretics, Graves, Gallows, Chapel, Attic, and Chapel Crypt, and then 1 clue to Abandoned Chapel and Haunted Fields, which makes it easier to get the VPs during the after you flip. So we will use our next action to move over here to the Abandoned Chapel. So we have 2 more clues to grab there, and then we can flip and try to get our Heretic. We do have the Scrounge for Supplies in our hand, which we can use to get the Look What I Found back, which could be quite helpful here once if we need to grab those clues. So nothing during the enemy phase. We pick up an Evidence during the upkeep phase, which we can use to grab a clue if we can defeat an enemy. We move to turn 3 and 2 of 8 Doom, and our encounter card is Gravelight. If Gravelight is drawn from the standard encounter deck, shuffle it into the Spectral encounter deck and it gains Surge. And so that is what we will do. Let's find the Spectral encounter deck first of all. It's down here. So that goes into the Spectral encounter deck. We shuffle that up and we draw another encounter card, which is going to be, Punishment. We put Punishment into play in our threat area after an enemy at any location is defeated. Ooh, that's even worse than I thought it was. After an enemy at any location is defeated, take 1 damage. So, of course, this is bad if we have to defeat the Heretics or the, I'm not sure what they are called, but the Witches in this scenario, that when you defeat them, you take a damage in a horror. This just adds another damage to the pile. So you're taking 2 damage in a horror if you defeat a witch. So I would like to get rid of that, but again, it is a 3 willpower skill test, and our willpower is 3, so that will be difficult. We could try to wait for a witch enemy to appear and then defeat it, but or exhaust it by evading it. But again, our agility is only 2, so that is that's a tough pull for us as well. Fortunately, the Abandoned Chapel's game text did not trigger. We get -1 to each skill during the Mythos phase here, so we can gain our 3 actions back and go on to the investigation phase. All right, we need these 2 clues, and then we can flip. So what we can do, let's investigate with the old key ring. We are going to go 2 because it's our first skill test of the round. 2v0. So as long as we don't draw an auto fail, we'll be okay. We get the Elder Thing that only triggers during attacks and evasion attempts. So we spend one of our key rings. We spend one of our keys. And we get that clue. 1 more clue to go. Now, do we just go 3v2 here? If we go 3v2, we can save the key for the Shrouded for the next one. Well, we're going to have to do it either way, I think. We could also play Scrounge for Supplies to get the key ring back, if necessary, and then that would give us a way to deal with to grab these final clues we need to get the 2 VPs. Let's spend the key ring here. So we'll investigate using the key ring again. 3v0 this time. We get a 0, so we would have been okay. We spend a key. We need to discard the key ring since we have no more keys on it. But we do grab this clue. We spend an action. Now we can advance. So if I play scrounge for supplies, we can get the key ring back, which would give us a pretty good chance of grabbing the 2 clues we need. So I think that's what we're going to do. We'll use our final action to play scrounge for supplies. We get to choose a level 0 card in our discard pile and return it to our hand. So we'll grab the key ring back as our final action. Before we go to the enemy phase, I don't think it matters actually when you advance here, but we are going to advance. So we will spend 3 clues. We have 2 clues left, which we can use to peek at the heretics to see which ones we want. So we spawn 1 set-aside heretic enemy at each of the following locations: the Gallows, Heretic's Graves, Chapel Attic, Chapel Crypt, and we add 2 clues to each of those locations, and we add 1 clue to each other location. So we have our heretics here. There are 6 heretics, so we get to see 4 of them. So there is a heretic up there at the Gallows, Chapel Attic, and finally Heretic's Graves. And then we add some clues. So we are adding 2 clues to the Gallows, to the Chapel Attic, to the Chapel Crypt, the Heretic's Graves, and we add 1 to Haunted Fields, Abandoned Chapel, and Hangman's Brook. All right, so we have done that. Now, if we have 3 or more mementos listed under mementos discovered, you understand the tragic lyrics behind the witch's song. Each investigator puts 1 set-aside spectral web asset under his or her control. I believe we have achieved that. We got 2 during the... We got 2 of them during the witching hour, and then I believe we got 1 during the secret name. So we can grab a copy of that. I tend not to use the spectral web that much. I have used it though, so it can come in handy if you've got the clues to spare. And I believe that is all. So we advance to Act 2A, In Pursuit of the Living. So now we can use a free triggered ability to flip your location over once per turn, once per round at each location. We can't discover clues at non-spectral locations, so we will have to flip them over at some point in order to grab those clues. And now we want to banish as many heretics as we can. If there are 4 copies of Unfinished Business in the victory display, advance. There is no way in hell that is happening, so we will simply do our best. So we have advanced. We can go nothing during the enemy phase. During upkeep, we grab our 2nd copy of Scrounge for Supplies, and we go to turn 4. 3 of 8 Doom. Our encounter card, since we are at a non-spectral location still, is going to be Bedeviled. Oh, nah. Man, that's awful. That really sucks, because that is the worst encounter card in the deck. Of course, you cannot trigger abilities, action-triggered abilities on cards you control, which means that shuts down the Enchanted Blade, the Spectral Web, the old Keyring, the whole 9 yards. So we are going to have to probably spend a round trying to get rid of that, which is going to be difficult. We do not have any willpower icons in our hand, and we have a racked, so our first skill test is going to be a 2 versus 3. So not great. I was hoping that we would get away without a Bedeviled, but unfortunately not. So let's try to get rid of it. We're going 2v3. This is pretty low odds. We get a 0. Now we're going 3v3. Let's hope we get another 0. We get an auto fail that time, and we will try one more time. And we get another auto fail. So back-to-back auto fails. Not great. bad turn. But we have to get rid of that Bedeviled, or we're basically screwed for the rest of this game. So nothing during the enemy phase. Fortunately, we pick up an enchanted blade, which is provides us with no help in the willpower department. And we go to turn 5, the Mythos phase. We are really going to need to get rid of this Bedeviled, or our game is going to be pretty much over, I think. Just a quick reminder that my giveaway for the Edge of the Earth Investigator expansions, the deadline for entries is Sunday, so make sure if you have not already entered, get your entry in by August 15th. Check out that video, and you'll be entered into a draw for one of 2 copies of the Edge of the Earth Investigator expansion, which I'm hoping will be released in early September. So we have nothing in our discard pile that is going to help us. So we were simply drawing an encounter card, 4 of 8 Doom. We draw Centuries of Secrets, test 5 willpower. So we are going, because of the Racked, we are going 2v5. So it looks like we're probably discarding 5 cards from the encounter deck. Yes, we are. And if we get a Cursed Treachery, we take a direct damage. So all things considered, not terrible. There is a Racked. There's the Century of Secrets. 3, 4, 5, and we take a direct damage. So we've taken 1 horror and 1 damage so far. Man, we just don't have the willpower skill icons to deal with this Bedeviled, unfortunately. But we do, since we burned the Racked -1 on that Centuries of Secret test, so we can try again here, and maybe we can get lucky. All right, so we'll get 3 actions. We're gonna just do Bedeviled once, 3v3. That's a -3. Bedeviled again. There's a 3rd auto fail. Bedeviled again. There's a skull. That's a -1. And yeah, not good. It is the worst encounter card in the. We get another old key ring during the upkeep phase. Again, no help. We really need our copy of Steadfast or anything with a willpower skill icon at this point. So we go to the Mythos phase, 5 of 8 Doom. We are rapidly running out of time. We draw Diabolic Voices, test 3 willpower. So we're going 2v3. For each point we fail by, we randomly discard a card from our hand. We get an Elder Sign, so that's actually a +2. And we surprisingly pass the Diabolic Voices. All right. So we are stuck here with this Bedeviled in our deck, or in our threat area. I don't know. Do we draw a couple cards and hope we get a Steadfast? There's still 24 cards in our deck. The odds of drawing that are very thin, so let's just keep on trying to break it. Since we used the Racked on that, the Racked was triggered during the Diabolic Voices. We're going 3v3. We get a -4. We get our 4th auto fail. And we get a 0. We break the Bedeviled. Man. Well, we did it. And then we get a Look What I Found. So I suspect that the best bet we're going to do here is we may get the 2 VPs, and that's probably going to be about it, but we shall see. Maybe we can take out the Spectral Watcher in one of the heretics yet. We go to the next Mythos phase. It is turn 6 of the game, 6 of 8 Doom. We draw a Evil Past during the Mythos phase. So that just goes in our threat area. If the encounter deck runs out of cards, we have the potential to take some horror, but that seems highly unlikely that will happen. I don't think it's ever happened to me yet playing this scenario. So we're going to get our 3 actions back. Now we can flip Abandoned Chapel as a free triggered ability. Oh, we got -1 during the Mythos phase. So would we have passed still? Yeah, we actually passed the Diabolic Voices. Wow. Because we're at Abandoned Chapel, we're -1. So we would have been 1. We would have drawn the Elder Sign. We would have been 2v3. So we just passed, fortunately. We did not screw that up. Not that I would have been too worried about losing anything in my hand, really. We haven't lost. We don't have a very good hand for what we needed. All right, let's flip to the Abandoned Chapel. The Spectral side. We are going to go... we're going to play the old keyring. Got lots of resources now as our first action. Second action, we're going to investigate using the old keyring. 3v0. We get an elder thing, so we pass. We grab this clue. And we're going to move over to Haunted Fields. All right, that was our turn. We go to Upkeep. We draw Becky, which if we can get the Bandolier and Becky down, that would be pretty good. Pretty nice little setup there. But I don't know if we're going to have time for that. It is turn 8. Turn 8, we are at a non-spectral location. We draw, there's the Vengeful Witch. That's what I was worried about. They appear at the Gallows or Heretic's Graves, Alert and Hunter. When Vengeful Witch is defeated, deal its damage and horror to each investigator at its location as direct damage and or horror. So she will appear here at the Gallows. So really, at this point, our goal is simply to grab this VP, maybe get a Heretic if we get lucky. We need to be exceptionally lucky because we need a Heretic to basically appear, not only to defeat the Heretic, but defeat the Heretic at the right location. So if we were to say go after this Heretic, we really want this Heretic to be the Heretic that triggers it to Heretic's Graves to avoid having to move around too much. Well, we have the Vengeful Witch now. We get our 3 actions back. The Spectral Watcher is coming next turn, and we're going to be flipping to the... all of the locations will be flipping to their spectral sides. Our first test this round is going to be Racked. So we did use the key ring once. Should take a key off that, and so I think what we're going to do is I think what we do, let's commit the evidence. We're going to go, we're going to investigate using the key ring at Haunted Fields. So we are 2 because of Racked, 4 because of evidence. And so we're going 1, so we're going 4v1 to try to grab this clue. There's our 5th auto fail of the game. Man, 5 auto fails in 8 turns is a lot of auto fails. Now we're not racked anymore, so we can go 3v1. We're not going to use this other old key ring, so let's go 4v1. We get a -2, so we do pass. So the good news is that we are going to get at least 2 VPs this game. The bad news is that it is 7 of 8 Doom, and we have a Vengeful Witch coming to attack us this turn. So if we were to go up to her, we would take a damage and a horror. The problem is I really don't want to leave Hangman's Brook. Or I don't want to leave the vicinity of Hangman's Brook. I guess we could go to the abandoned chapel. If we wanted to put some distance between us and the Vengeful Witch, I'm just wondering whether the best bet would be to go to Chapel Crypt, check that heretic. If we get the right heretic, we have a chance to deal with it. If not, we are only 2 actions away to resign. I think that's what we're going to do. We can go, we'll move to Abandoned Chapel. So the witch will come to Haunted Fields. Next turn, we're going to go to we are going to go to Chapel Crypt. Or we could go to Chapel Attic. It doesn't really matter which. As long as we can, we're going to check. Now, but we're going to automatically engage that heretic that next turn. See, this is the problem with this scenario. It's two agendas. It feels like it should be 3 agendas. There should be one between agenda 1A and 2A. 2A should really be 3A. There should be an agenda between them that gives you a little more time, because as soon as the Spectral Watcher comes out, it's just another thing you've got to play around, and it's very difficult to deal with. That's all the movement I can do. If I go to Abandoned Chapel, next turn I can go to Chapel Crypt, peek, but then I'm going to get jumped by everything. I get jumped by absolutely everything. Actually, I don't think going to Abandoned Chapel is the best. Because if I go to... See, I don't think I have enough time to... This is always the problem with this scenario. As soon as the Spectral Watcher is going to come out. If I go to Heretic's Graves instead, I'm going to take a horror. No, I can't do that either. Or we just stand and fight. If the witch comes to us, we take a damage and a horror. See, without knowing what any of the heretics do, I'm kind of stuck. Because I can move in and check them. Say I wait and fight the witch, kill the witch. The Watcher comes out. I move. I have Becky if I need to try to make a cheeky evade test. But yeah, that bedeviled slowed me down too much. Is the Watcher a I don't think the Watcher is a Geist. That would be crazy. No, he's not. Okay. Well, I guess we wait for the witch and the Watcher. I'm so reluctant to commit. Like, I've got the 2 VPs. Getting a heretic at this point just seems like it's not going to happen. I can beat up this witch next turn. Then I could try to deal with the Watcher. It's just if I move to a location that's too far away. Each spectral enemy at haunted fields. So I'm going to take an additional horror. Man. Not good. So if I go to the abandoned chapel instead, like if I stay here, the Watcher is going to get double. All of the spectral enemies will have double horror, and I can't move through there. So that's bad. I guess we go to abandoned chapel and wait and see what happens. I don't want to stay at haunted fields because if I get too many Geist enemies, they're going to just deal extra horror, and I don't have a ton of sanity to work with. So we will move the Vengeful Witch during the enemy phase. We draw a lucky. Man, we could have used that a couple turns ago. And we go to upkeep. Mythos. So 8 of 8 Doom. We are advancing. So we flip each location to its spectral side. If not already done. We spawn the Spectral Watcher enemy at the brook. So those are going to come into the encounter deck. The Spectral Watcher shows up at Hangman's Brook. And we shuffle the remainder, the set-aside Watcher encounter set into the Spectral encounter deck along with the Spectral discard pile. There is no Spectral discard pile at this time. So we shuffle those up, and that's going to be that. Agenda 2A, Death's Approach, Doom threshold of 7, but yeah, now we've got enemies everywhere, and it's going to be very, very difficult to do anything of substance. So we have to draw from the Spectral Encounter deck. We get Terror in the Night, test 4 willpower. If you fail, put Terror into Night into play next to the Agenda deck. If you fail by 3 or more, it gains Surge. So we are going we're going less than that because we get -1 to each skill, plus the racked is -1, so we are at a 1v4. We draw -1, so we're at 0v4, so we failed by 3 or more, so Spectral Terror in the Night goes into our threat area. We draw Burdens of the Past. If there are no copies of Burdens Unfinished Business in your threat area, Burdens of the Past gains Surge. Otherwise, trigger the forced ability of each copy of Unfinished Business in your threat area as if it were the end of the round. There are no copies, so we don't have to worry about that. So it gains Surge. So our third encounter card this turn is another Burdens of the Past, which gains Surge. Into Bane of the Living. Choose an Unfinished Business card in play, flip it to its heretic side, and place damage on it equal to half its health. Discard cards from the top of the Spectral Encounter deck until a Geist enemy is discarded and spawn that enemy engaged with me. Well, I can't choose the first one, so I have to choose the second. There is a Geist enemy. So, yeah, this is no good. No bueno. Well, that's, I think, going to end it because now we are going to get jumped by the Vengeful Witch, the Spectral Watcher, and we have this Malevolent Spirit to deal with. So we are... Now, does this... Yeah, spawn that enemy engaged with you. So the... Normally, the Malevolent Spirit only spawns at the Chapel or Crypt, but he spawns engaged with me this time. It gets +1 damage value, +1 horror value. So it's going to hit me for 2 horror as well. And if we don't kill it with a relic or a spell. But I think that's all moot because what we're just going to do, we're going to take the 2 horror. During our turn, we are going to move to the Hangman's Brook and resign because we'll take the 2 horror from the attack and resign because otherwise I think next turn we would take 1, 2. We would have killed him, then we would have taken 2 horror and we would have been unable to deal with all the enemies. So, yeah. Well, I said it was a tough one in solo, and unfortunately it lived up to its name here. We did get the 2 VPs, which is great, I guess. We do get our second copy. We saved 4 VPs from the previous, what was it? At Death's Doorstep and the Secret Name. So we had 4. We needed 1 to get our second copy of the Red Gloved Man, so we will go into For the Greater Good with 2 copies of the Red Gloved Man, and unfortunately we're adding 4 Doom to the start of Union and Disillusion, which will make beating that scenario very difficult indeed. Yeah, unfortunately that bedeviled, being unable to break that. We didn't get a lucky. I don't think we saw a willpower skill icon the entire game. I would have scrounged for one if we'd had one in our discard pile, but we didn't even have that. Let's see where our steadfasts were, out of curiosity. We weren't going to see... there's the Cherished Keepsake, which was 4 cards down, so... Unfortunately, we were unable to break the Bedeviled, and that was the game. That slowed us down just enough that we were unable to check any of the heretics. Just out of curiosity, let's see if any of them matched up. So if I had gone... I did go this way. I did go to Abandoned Chapel, so let's check this one at Abandoned Crypt. It was the parlay one. So, yeah. I might have been able to do that one, but I probably would have died doing it. So, would it have been worthwhile to go there? Probably not. Because I would have had to kill... Let's see. I would have killed... Say I would have killed the Malevolent Spirit. He's not too tough. Then I would have moved. I would have peeked. I would have taken an attack of opportunity. I would have peeked. He would have attacked me. I would have triggered the ability again. And then I would have... So that would have been... How many actions? So that would have been 1, 2... If I had waited there, I would have been safe from the Spectral Watcher and the Vengeful Witch. But then I would have had to move through them. I don't know, maybe I would have done it. I might have been able to do it. But of course, that's a 1 in 6 chance. And those aren't great odds that was the one that we could have done. So I think had we just gone for it, we would have we might have been actually able to get a heretic, but I don't know. There are 6 heretics, and there's only one of those, so it was long odds that we would have gotten it, and then we would have had to have run for it, and we probably would have taken too much. We would have taken 4 more horror at least before we could resign. So I don't know. I guess we'll just have to deal with the foredoom in Union and Disillusion. So that is going to do it for today's game of the day. Not a particularly good one, in my opinion. Wages of Sin is not one of my favorite scenarios in the game. Unfortunately, if you're playing a campaign, it is a necessary evil. And so we knocked it out. Might have had a chance to do a little bit better, but, I mean, not a great deal better. We do get the 2 VPs, and I guess I'll take that and go. So I'm going to be posting more Game of the Days as we progress. I don't know if it'll be every day, but I'm hoping to. We've got quite a few campaigns on the go, and we do have a lot of people who filled out the surveys who wanted to see games, and I will be getting to those as we get along. So if you enjoyed this type of content, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. If you need to contact me, I can be reached at manfromlang@gmail.com. I'm also on Twitter at manfromlang. Until next time, I hope that you have a fantastic day and stay safe out there. Take care. That's going to do it for this episode. If you enjoyed what you hear, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. If you need to contact me, I can be reached at manfromlang@gmail.com. I'm also on Twitter at manfromlang. Until the stars are right, keep your shotgun close and your elder sign closer. Take care out there, and happy investigating.